Hello, I'm Angela Johnston from Heartland AA11, and I'm here today to present an overview for parents on bullying prevention. This is produced through the courtesy of the Parent-Educator Connection in Heartland, with collaboration from Margie Schaefer, Parent-Educator Coordinator for Heartland AA11. Today, we will cover the definition of bullying based on Iowa law, defining features and characteristics of bullying, the investigation process of reporting bullying incidents and what needs to be recorded by school districts and reported to the state, how to cope with the effects of bullying, and how to communicate with your local school if this is happening to someone who you know. This is a short video of statistics about bullying created by Sue Shermer at Heartland AA11. Here are some statistics about the cost of bullying from Pacer's National Institute for Bullying Prevention. Bullying is a social problem that negatively affects 3 out of 4 students during their school career. Bullying is also a mental health problem. The psychological consequences for students involved in bullying is severe. They include depression, suicide, and antisocial behavior. Bullying creates feelings of helplessness, anger, and frustration. Bullying contributes to a negative school climate, which is connected to lower academic functioning. And often, adults don't know how to respond effectively to bullying, not only in the school, but in the community setting as well. It is an expensive cost because of the increased dropout, suicide, and litigation rates associated with bullying in our nation. Here are some statistics about bullying and the incidence level for students who have disabilities. Only 10 U.S. studies have been conducted on the connection between bullying and developmental disabilities, but all of these studies have found that children with disabilities were 2 to 3 times more likely to be bullied than their non-disabled peers. One study found that 60% of students with disabilities reported being bullied regularly, compared to 25% of all students. This is a great quote by Barbara Coloroso. Bullying is a learned behavior, and if it can be learned, it can be examined, and it can be changed. I would recommend this book to anyone who wants to learn more about bullying. In addition, if we are to look at bullying and where bullying is learned, we must take a look at ourselves. If bullying behavior is a learned behavior, did they learn it from us? And if so, how do we role model better behaviors to prevent bullying in the future? Here are some definitions on bullying from Dan Oveus, a world-renowned researcher in the area of bullying. It is important to begin with a common understanding of what bullying is and what it isn't. Dan Oveus defines bullying as a student who is being bullied or victimized when he or she is exposed repeatedly and over time to negative actions on the part of one or more students. He then improved his definition in 2007 to become more specific. Bullying is when someone repeatedly and on purpose says or does mean and hurtful things to another person who has a hard time defending him or herself. The 2 characteristics here that I would like to point out is that bullying is usually repeated and there are negative actions. Mean or hurtful things are done or said to a person, and that other person has a hard time defending him or herself. Again, to summarize what bullying is, it usually involves aggressive behavior that is unwanted and negative. It's usually a pattern of behavior repeated over time, and the key feature is that there's usually an imbalance of power or strength, meaning that one person has a hard time defending him or herself from the other person who is exhibiting the negative actions. Now let's talk about what Iowa law says bullying is. Iowa law says that bullying is electronic, written, verbal, or physical, and it's an act or conduct based on any actual or perceived trait or characteristic. This usually creates an objectively hostile school environment. This definition goes on to include what objectively hostile means. Bullying is defined by Iowa law as an objectively hostile school environment, which means any one or more of the following characteristics. A student may have a fear of harm to their self or to their property, or experience a substantially detrimental effect on their physical or mental health, ability to perform academically, ability to participate and benefit in the school's services, activities, and privileges. In addition to specifying the 17 traits or characteristics of a student that are protected, the law also defines bullying as any conduct or act that creates an objectively hostile school environment. The law gets more specific to define what objectively hostile school environment means. We go into more detail on the following slides, but it is important to remember that the law does not require all 4 of these conditions to exist before it can be considered bullying. Any one is enough. And if there are more than one, it would seem that the school experience for that student, staff member, or volunteer is even more hostile. Therefore, that much more unpleasant and much more difficult an environment in which to learn. In this section, we will review what the school must investigate and report in the area of bullying. Schools must always report all incidents that meet the criteria based on the targeted student's perception of the incident. If the student's perception of the incident appears to meet the criteria of the definition of bullying or harassment, it must be investigated. A written complaint is then initiated and the incident is investigated and reported. Therefore, schools need to report all incidents if the initial report, however it may be communicated, appears to meet the definition before the incident is investigated. Even if the incident is found to be not founded, or found not to be bullying, they must still report it to the state. They can report it as unfounded if after the investigation is completed, it does not meet the definition of bullying. On this slide, we will see a visual about the bullying definition, and it breaks it down into an easier format. Bullying is any intentional or unwanted act or conduct that can be electronic, written, verbal, or physical, and based on, at a minimum, any of the following actual or perceived traits, which then creates an objectively hostile school environment defined as any one or more of the following. It creates a student's reasonable fear of harm to self or property, or a substantially detrimental effect on the student's physical or mental health, ability to perform academically, or ability to participate in and benefit from the school services, activities, or privileges. As you've seen, the Iowa law has defined an objectively hostile school environment for us, and this helps us clarify what kinds of conditions exist for a situation to be labeled as bullying. It is not difficult to notice, however, that there are still parts of the definition that are very subjective in nature. On the next 2 slides, we will break down the bullying definition and define what reasonable fear of harm means. For example, what does a student's reasonable fear of harm look like? Basically, we mean how would an average student in a similar circumstance respond? Would a reasonable person take the view that there is reasonable possibility that a student or the student's property will be harmed? Determining whether or not a student feels fear can be interpreted through his or her actions. So what actions might indicate fear of being harmed? Some examples may include frequent or consistent avoidance behaviors. For instance, asking to be moved to a different seat, wanting to ride a different bus, walking a route home that is different than usual, avoiding certain areas of the school or certain people in the school, and staying near adults during less structured activities during the school day. Obviously, this isn't an exhaustive list, but it helps us define reasonable fear of harm. On this slide, we will break down what substantially detrimental effect means. What evidence do we have to suggest a significant harm to a student's physical health or sense of well-being? Our evidence should be objective and based on evidentiary fact. What about the term substantially detrimental effect? What does that mean? It may seem rather subjective, and it is. Consider the evidence you know that may be harmful to a young person's physical and/or mental health. For example, their sense of well-being. You know it may be harmful because you've worked with kids before and you know them well. What objective evidence can you point to that supports the idea that the student's physical or mental health have been impacted in a negative way? For instance, you can look at a student's attendance. Have they decreased their attendance? Have they increased visiting the nurse or skipping school? Have they withdrawn from class or school activities? These are examples that would help you determine a substantially detrimental effect. Other examples of substantially interfering with academic performance and the ability to participate and benefit from school services activities or privileges include increase in absences, increase in skipping class, dropping out of a class, quitting activities, changing transportation, impacting grades, such as lower grades or failing classes that they hadn't failed before, changing of a lunch period, staying in from recess and not wanting to be around others, asking to change a seat in class. Again, it's important to remember what is an objective observation and evidentiary fact when determining the extent to which a student is impacted in this way. I like this slide because it reviews all the different types of bullying behaviors. It goes through aggressive, manipulative, direct, and indirect examples. More and more, bullying reports have become less and less direct and aggressive in type and more indirect and manipulative in style. For example, intentionally excluding others, undermining relationships, and publicly trying to humiliate others is becoming more common. Technology is helping in the indirect bullying because it is more commonplace to post things and be anonymous. Research indicates that boys tend to be more aggressive and direct, and girls tend to be more manipulative and indirect. This visual may help school personnel and students distinguish among behaviors that are considered harassing or bullying and harmless play and fighting. The behaviors may be harmless play and fighting and yet against school rules for safety and disruption reasons, but may not deserve the same consequence as true bullying and harassment. If we look more closely at this visual, you will see that teasing and rough play is usually between friends and often repeated. There is usually an equal balance in power and no intent to harm, and the affect is usually friendly, positive, and mutual. Fighting may not occur between friends, may not typically be repeated. Power may be relatively equal, and intentional harm may be done. The effect may be negative, aggressive, tense, and hostile. However, it does become bullying when people are not friends and generally repeated. There's an unequal balance of power, and there's an intentional harm being done. The effect can be negative, aggressive, and differs for the victim or target and the aggressor or bully. This is a visual from Dan Oveus, and it helps to remind us that rarely are the student who is being the bully or the aggressor and the student who is the victim or the target the only two involved in a bullying situation. In fact, rarely is there just two people involved, the bully or the target. Typically, there is a group of bystanders who may play different roles. We've probably all been a part of one of these roles sometime in our life. We need to educate students about mobilizing the bystanders or the others that are standing around in a bullying situation. Once a bystander intervenes and that bystander is a peer, the bullying is likely to stop immediately and not reoccur. It is about creating a caring community and a caring environment. It's not about fixing the bullies. It's about mobilizing the majority or the bystanders. It's about making bullying unacceptable, requiring a full climate change. This includes support from staff, parents, and students. We need to use teachable moments to enhance the learning environment. In a full culture change, we need to look at mobilizing the bystanders instead of fixing the bullies. Bystanders have the power because they outnumber the bullies. Once a leader steps up and intervenes, then the others are more likely to follow the leader and not the bully. We need to educate children how to be more effective bystanders instead of passive bystanders. Here are some key points and statistics. Only 6% of kids are considered bullies. 9% are the targets or victims, and over 85% are considered bystanders. We must empower the silent majority to take a stand. We need to help intervene and help bystanders learn how to stand up or speak out instead of being bystanders who are passive and feed and build the power of the bully. Here is another visual from Dan Oveus. Again, this is the percent of bystanders. We see that 38% of bystanders do nothing, 27% want to help but don't, and 35% try to help. Over 2/3 of the bystander population end up doing nothing. This visual helps students learn how to be upstanders instead of bystanders. It goes over the importance of reporting versus tattling. In a reporting of a bullying incident, the purpose is to keep someone safe, to get them help. It is important because there could be dangerous or harmful effects, and the behavior is done on purpose. In tattling, that is to get someone in trouble. It's usually something that you can handle on your own, and it's not important. It's usually harmless, and the behavior is sometimes an accident. So we teach kids to be reporters instead of tattlers, and the importance of reporting bullying because they can keep the situation safe and help instead of harm. In this section, we will review strategies parents can use to support their children if they are experiencing bullying. So what can parents do? We need to encourage students to talk to an adult and help them talk to someone at school. If an adult at school does not know it's occurring, it's hard for them to take action. We want to let students know it's not their fault if they are experiencing bullying, and we want to teach positive strategies to handle stress. We want to make sure we surround them with positive upstanders and people and friends in and outside of school, and give them opportunities to get away, such as hobbies or activities in the community. We want to give them positive advice, including positive actions rather than negative actions. We want to instill hope. We also want to help children understand that they should not retaliate against a bully. Instead, they should seek adult assistance. Too often, students retaliate in a negative way and then are consequenced or punished because of that retaliation. And if at all possible, we want to encourage them if they are experiencing cyberbullying to get off of social media. This is a cyberbullying strategy we like to teach students at school. First, we tell them to stop and not respond back. Don't post back, don't tweet back, because once you respond, you make it a conversation, and you can also get in trouble. Copy what has been written. Email it to yourself and show someone. Words can be taken down as fast as they are put up. Then we want to teach students how to block the person who is cyberbullying. Block them from your account. Don't engage or respond back to them in writing. If they know they can see your words, they will keep doing it because they have the power over you. And fourth, tell someone. Talk to an adult, either at school or in the community. Talk to your friends. They can help support you and put positive messages instead of negative messages on social media. And if it does not stop, get help. What other strategies can parents engage in? Parents can encourage their children to be good friends and good bystanders. Most youth reported they felt the most help when peers encouraged them, listened to them, and helped them see that the mean behavior is the fault of the person who is being mean to them. Also, we can help reframe their thinking. We can help children by telling them they are a good person and they are a good friend, and that this is not about them. It's about the insecurities of the bully. We want to give them hope. We want to support all classmates, even if they are friends or not friends. We want to be upstanders instead of bystanders. The least effective strategies that we can engage in are saying you should have statements or blaming statements. Saying it wouldn't have happened if you had acted differently, or telling a student to stop tattling has found to not be effective. When we think about it, we didn't like it when we were growing up and our parents told us you should have or you could have, so let's refrain from doing it to our own children. In addition, we want to build resiliency. Resiliency is a powerful strategy, and it's important to teach. One of the strategies that builds resiliency is alternative solutions, finding alternative solutions or other options to handle stressful situations. Children need to come up with their own options, and we need to help them generate those options. But we want to refrain from doing that when children are under high levels of stress. Instead, we want to practice this during non-stressful and non-threatening situations, such as reading a book, reading a fairy tale, or watching TV or a movie. In these situations, we can talk about and ask leading questions, such as, what else could you do? How could you avoid that situation or ask for help? We want to teach kids that there's alternate solutions for all problems. Only we are responsible for our actions, and we can control the outcome through our actions. How we respond to a situation, either negatively or positively, can change the outcome. We also want to build resiliency through teaching empathy. In teaching empathy, we want to teach children how to think about how others feel, how their actions impact others. We want to ask them questions to think about how the target might feel. Most teens report that they prefer quiet support. What does quiet support look like? It looks like not just confronting the bully, but support through phone calls, text messages, and positive messages posted on social media sites. And also how to apologize if they were, in fact, the bully. When building resiliency, we need to focus on the growth mindset. The growth mindset of thinking emphasizes students should understand that both their successes and failures are linked to their effort and the strategy they use, rather than being a reflection of how smart or talented they are. Dr. Carol Dweck gives us several examples of how to interpret success. If we interpret our success based on a fixed mindset of I'm smart, I'm kind, I'm great, I'm special, I'm good at math, or I have a gift in music, that is a very fixed mindset, and often our actions may not match the growth we need to make. In the growth mindset, we need to instead focus on that it's our effort and our actions, the hard work that we do that impacts the outcome. So I didn't give up. I worked hard. I helped others. I think about what I'm learning. I pay attention and I ask questions. In addition to build resiliency, we need to encourage hobbies and service. Different hobbies could include sports, clubs, or hobbies both inside or outside of school. Having groups of friends both inside and outside school will help build resiliency. Also, providing service to others will bring us a sense of positive relationships with others. In your pamphlet, in your DVD, you will have a handout about what school officials can and cannot tell you if your child has been a victim of bullying. Some of the things the school cannot tell you are any specific disciplinary procedures against other children except your own. In addition, any content or communication with another child's parents or guardian is confidential. Any contract or agreement with a child who is not your own or with parents of that child is also confidential. Any names or identification of other children involved in previous incidents also cannot be shared, or other measures parents are taking to help their own children. What school officials can tell you are specific disciplinary procedures that are defined in your school policy or school handbook, and whether or not they intend to follow any of those policies in this case. They can also tell you any actions they are taking that affect your child. They can tell you the fact that they have been in communication with parents or guardians of other children. They can tell you any actions the school is taking that affect children generally. This might include the entire grade or the entire population. They can tell you any previous incidents that your child has been involved in without naming other children. They can also tell you what safety measures they may be implementing to help keep your child safe. And they must tell you any reports or referrals made to law enforcement. In addition, on your handout, you will find steps that you can take to help your children voice the fact that they have been bullied. You can ask them what has been going on and get the details. You can encourage them and say that you're proud of them, that they came to you, and have them walk you through the incident. The most important fact is to get all the details that surrounded the incident by asking questions like, where did this happen? When did it happen? Is this the first time this has happened to you? What happened right before this happened? Walk me through how this happened and what was going on. Who else was there? Did you tell anyone? Those questions will help you get specific details. Put those details in writing. Make sure when you approach the school that you are calm and that you have your facts, preferably in writing, so that you don't forget any of the details. Make an appointment with your school and give them information. During the appointment, ask the school, is there any other information that I can get for my child to help with this situation? And ask them which school policy the school may be following to address the situation. Note that you understand the legal limitations the school officials are under, and ask them when they will like to follow up with you. This is a website that Iowa has created, and it includes a 24/7 hotline and website to assist youth and adults with bullying and suicide prevention. If you go to this website, you will see a number that you can call at any time. You will also see a text-to-talk to 85511 that is available from 3 to 11 p.m. every day. If your child does not want to call but prefers to talk or text or chat with someone online, that is also available. In conclusion, this is our call to action. I hope today you have gained awareness in the area of bullying prevention. We will end with a quote. Let us not look back in anger or forward in fear, but around us in awareness. And remember, be the change you want to see in the world. Thank you for listening.